So, joining us on set today is my buddy Mike. How's it going, Mike?
It's going good. How are you, Mark?
Not bad. So Mike is a digital compositor and an amateur photographer, and he's here today to answer some of our basic anamorphic lens questions. Starting with the most important, what is an anamorphic lens?
Basically, an anamorphic lens is a lens that lets you fit as much data as you can onto an image.
So basically, just putting more information in the same amount of real estate you had before.
Right.
Okay. So how does it kind of work? What's the general idea?
The general idea behind it is it's an adapter or a specific type of lens that goes on a camera. In this case, an adapter for the GoPro. That's right. And basically the idea was to get as much data onto the image plane, the sensor in this case. So what you end up doing is you want to squish that information into the frame. Usually you get, just a standard frame, but what this adapter will do is actually take a wider field of view than was possible before and squish it onto that sensor. So when you film, you're actually filming squished footage. And the idea behind that is that once you're done filming, you can unsquish or stretch the footage, and you get a wider field of view than you would have otherwise.
And it's like a more cinematic look.
It's a definitely more cinematic look. When it was developed, they decided to go with a wider kind of field of view and a more horizontal instead of a square, because they were kind of trying to compete against TV when TV was becoming popular, and they wanted to show, a more wider filmic look, because, humans kind of see a bit wider than a, standard 4:3 television.
So one of the benefits could be that once we take our squished image and convert it, we have a much larger plate than a standard. Let's say we filmed in 1920. Now we're going to end up with a, what was the resolution?
It's about 2500, something like that.
Depending on how you film, this is going to change, but you're going to have a much wider image than you started with for your 1920 by 1080 comp. So in theory, you could shift the footage over to make a more interesting comp, right?
Right. Well, you get, basically what you get is two things on the side like this, where you usually get your 1920, in the middle. You actually get two things on the side. So now you have a much wider thing. And the great thing about that is that you can capture more elements on the left or on the right, or if you want, you can just crop it to 19 by 20 by 1080 and then, move it wherever you'd like.
So in theory, I could also, if I'm filming something action sports and something's happening on the side, there's less likely the chance that I'm going to miss it or it's going to get cut off.
Exactly. And plus it looks more filmic, so you can, try to film from low angles and, try to get that more filmic type look.
So along with some of that being the advantages, what are some of the disadvantages of filming with an anamorphic lens?
So the traditional anamorphic lenses have a few disadvantages. For one thing, we are in fact stretching the pixels or squishing them, and you will lose a little bit of quality on that, but it's not too apparent in my opinion in this case.
So like straight lines will be slightly curved.
So what happens is, since we're shooting on we're now shooting on a curved lens, what happens is all horizontal lines end up being more curved. So anything that's horizontal look a little bowed out. Now, normally this would be a big problem. Well, not a problem. Some people like the way it looks, but normally this would be more apparent. But since the GoPro is shooting so wide anyway, you actually see that anyway, even without the anamorphic lens.
Yeah.
Like I said, besides that, you also get a different type of lens flare with normal anamorphic lenses. A lot of people actually like the way that looks, though.
I like lens flares.
Lens flares are cool. You actually get a horizontal type looking lens flare. It'd have a big streak horizontal coming across. I didn't notice it too much on some of the test footage, but I'm sure you'll put up some more examples of that.
Yeah, we're gonna try and replicate those sort of horizontal lens flares right here. If you're not seeing any, it's because I couldn't replicate what I was hoping to get. So, without really going into too much detail, is it hard to convert?
No, it's pretty simple to convert. There's a few ways to do it. I'm not going to get too into it right now. Basically, there's two ways. You can either stretch the image out or squish it, but I'm not getting too into that right now. Maybe...
Yeah, there's going to be a preset built into GoPro Studio in the near future for the Letus AnamorphX lens in particular. But if you're someone like me who wants to go into After Effects and doesn't want to convert all of your footage, we're going to go over a few ways on how you can do that later, but it's a little more complicated if you're not using just the preset. We're going to do maybe a separate video or just throw it in here somewhere, but we'll get into that later. Along with aspect ratios. Aspect ratios are kind of difficult to go over simply in a short period of time, so again, that's something we'll cover in a later video.
Alright, so there's a few questions from the viewers here. First question we have is Forever Alone 42875. Okay. Okay, so he asks, or she, Will this fit on the Hero 3 case or just the Hero 3 Plus?
So unfortunately, the Letus AnamorphX adapter is only built for the Hero 3 Plus case, and you should probably dedicate a case for it. You don't want to be taking that on and off again because, again, it is an expensive lens. You don't want to damage any of the threads inside of it. If you're going to pick this lens up, whatever case you end up putting it on, maybe you should consider keeping it on that lens forever.
Okay, so the second question we have is from SilverEdition, and he asks, how much will this end up costing?
Letus is going to be retailing this at $200 US dollars. If you guys have any questions that we don't cover in this video, feel free to leave a comment. I'll get back to you as fast as possible, or you can shoot me an email, but leave it in the comment section. You might answer a question someone else might already have.